rapid fire. I'm going to do a rapid round. All right. Do you support Medicare for all?
Yes.
Banning congressional stock trading?
Yes.
Abolishing and prosecuting ICE?
Absolutely.
Taxing billionaires?
Yes.
Canceling student loan debt?
Yes.
Canceling medical debt via the Medical Debt Cancellation Act?
I think that's very important. Yes.
Universal child care?
Yes.
Implementing the Green New Deal?
Yes.
Ending aid to Israel?
Yes.
Ending America's war on Iran?
Yes.
Ending America's blockade on Cuba?
Yes.
Okay.
That was easy.
Yeah. nothing crazy
I didn't have to
there.
think about any of these.
Yeah.
My convictions have not changed. I treat people as human beings every single day. I don't look at their skin color, their race, their religion. When someone is sick, I want to help them. And I think that our country is really sick right now. And I want to go in, never been in politics before other than voting and, supporting my candidates. And so I don't answer it to anyone except people. I'm not taking any corporate PACs. I'm not getting any APAC money. I don't think they're going to, volunteer it, but I am raising it from individuals because that's who we should be answering to. And when I go to Congress, I'm going to be answering to the people because I believe that we answer to a higher power. And at one point of time, I'm going to be asked if I did the right thing. And I need to be able to answer that with a straight face. And so if you believe that and you want to support me, I think you should check me out on hamawyfornj.com. This is not the hardest thing I've ever done. I think, I was at an awards dinner yesterday. There was a medical conference and I got recognized for going to Gaza. And afterwards, I had a lot of people come and speak to me and say, thank you very much. You were very brave. And they weren't talking about brave for going to Gaza. Is that because I was speaking up? And, that kind of took me back is like speaking up is the easy part. Everyone could do that. All you need to do is just stand up and have a voice. And we could do that together. I'm going to do that in Congress. It's not like bombs falling around me. And, you could count on me for that.
Dr. Adam Hamawy, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. He is a surgeon running for New Jersey 12. It's a D+13 district. He's an Army veteran. He served as a doctor in Gaza, spent 3 weeks in Khan Yunis. Very honored to have you here today. Very excited to talk to you. You have a very interesting and storied career. And we're gonna get into all of that. But once again, thank you so much for coming. I see that you have a One Piece pin. That is crazy. What's that about?
Well, I'm a new fan. Basically, I've been traveling with my daughter. She went to the West Bank with me last year. We go to protests, and every time we go somewhere, she's like, "There's Luffy and there's One Piece."
That's crazy.
And finally, like a few weeks ago, I was at a ICE detention center at Delaney Hall in New Jersey, and flying outside of the center, this huge One Piece flag, and that was like the straw. I just went home that night and started watching, and trying to catch up. Got a few hundred episodes to go.
Wait, it's 1,000 episodes. You're in?
I'm only about 20 in, so okay, I got.
Yeah, you got a few thousand episodes to go. Here's the other thing. Oh yeah, we have some special treats for you. I've heard that this is
how did you know that?
Something that you enjoy. Here you go.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we got the Entenmann's too. Like, how did you find that out?
Yeah, I heard that you're a fan of the bad chocolate covered Entenmann's cake donuts.
It's like rocket fuel. When you're up late at night and you just need something to keep you going, it's sugar and caffeine.
And an orange Celsius. But before we get into that, before we get into One Piece and stuff, let me do an intro real quick. Adam Hamawy is a surgeon, like I said, running for U.S. House in New Jersey 12th District. Dr. Hamawy volunteered on a medical mission in Gaza, where he worked at European Hospital in Khan Yunis. where he was stranded after Israel closed the Rafah crossing, and later said the experience fundamentally changed how he thinks about U.S. foreign policy, humanitarian aid, and public health. Back here at home, Dr. Hamawy is campaigning on the idea, healthcare, not bombs. He supports Medicare for all, abolishing ICE, unrigging the U.S. economy, and ending America's aid to Israel. The New Jersey 12th seat will be opening as Bonnie Watson Coleman is set to retire after her term ends. Back to One Piece.
Yes.
There's an entire arc that's dedicated to socialized medicine. So I think you'll appreciate that.
I haven't gotten there yet, but my daughter Amina is telling me what it symbolizes, and it's fighting against oppression and tyranny. And I've seen that everywhere, and I'm a big fan of fighting oppression and tyranny because I've seen that firsthand, and disrupting the system, which is what we need here in the United States. So
hell yeah. Well, all right. Let's get started. People might not know this about you, but when you were back in Iraq, you were credited with saving Senator Tammy Duckworth's life. And in 2024, she had to step in to call upon Israel to allow you to evacuate Khan Yunis. You were among 3 of the 20 doctors who refused to evacuate until Israel agreed to allow a new set of doctors to come in to replace you. Can you walk us through what happened in that process?
My relationship with Senator Duckworth goes back a long time. And I was there in Iraq. It was November 2004 when her Black Hawk was shot down. And it was a mass casualty event. We had the entire crew come in. She was the most seriously injured. And what really stands out that day is that she came in and all she kept asking was, "How's my crew? How's my crew?" Which, that kind of burned her name into my brain. I took care of hundreds of troops when I was there. But I was always able to remember her, and I was able to remember, she symbolized everyone else I took care of. And we operated for a few hours. Really, she was in serious condition. And once we had her stabilized, she was flown out and evacuated. And it was a few years before we reconnected again. And then she got the chance to return the favor when I was stuck and my team was needed help. She was instrumental in, calling on the U.S. State Department and the Israeli government to get us out.
Yeah. So let's talk about that experience. I've interviewed a bunch of doctors that have done medical missions in Gaza, Feroz Sidwa, the Beast from the Middle East, to name a few. And that experience is usually harrowing. I hope you don't mind me asking about what took place there, but. One thing that I wanted to ask you in particular is, as an American doctor, did you feel a sense of protection given that you were an American versus local doctors like Hasan Hamdan, who, along with his family, was killed by an Israeli airstrike inside of a safe zone, or what they call a safe zone?
So there's no safe area in Gaza. Everywhere has been targeted. We had bombs falling really close to the hospital that shook us. We couldn't stand straight at some points. However, we did feel safer than other areas. And that was one of the main reasons that I didn't want to leave. And the 2 that went with us is because having foreign doctors in that space gave a sense of security also to the Palestinians that were there, because all the hospitals had been raided and targeted. And, having international attention on us made it less likely that the Israelis would hit it. They've hit other people in the past and called it accidents, so that could still always happen, the quote accident that continue to go on. But yes, we were safer, but not safe.
Yeah. You've mentioned in other interviews that you saw zero evidence to back up Israel's claims that Hamas was using hospitals as a command center, yet Israeli bombs never really stopped dropping on every single one of Gaza's hospitals. What did you see personally inside of these hospitals in Gaza when you were working?
So I saw broken hospitals. These are hospitals that are overwhelmed. They have little resources, little personnel. I had more access than most Palestinians. As a surgeon, I could walk into I could walk into any room in the hospital without restriction. There was nowhere that was said, this is not allowed. And this was not available to everybody else. And I was in that hospital. I was in, EGH, which is the European hospital. I was in Nasser. no signs at all of any military activity. I see more military activity with a security guard, in my local hospital standing at the door than what I saw in Gaza. I saw no weapons at all. No one that looked at all like a military, person. And 99.9% of the people coming in were clearly civilians, unless you want to call any young man who is 20 or older a combatant, which is not reasonable.
Yeah. You said that in the 3 weeks you spent at European General Hospital in Han Yunis, you performed 120 surgeries, and more than half were on children. All but one was for treatment and reconstruction of war wounds. Israel killed 2 of your colleagues while you were there. You stated that some of the doctors around you reported being tortured while they were under Israeli detention. How did the sequence of events change your outlook on humanity? And what do you believe we can do as Americans? What can the American government do?
This was not my first time in a combat zone. I've seen war. I was in Iraq. I was in Bosnia, which was another genocide that was, 20, 30 years ago. I was, with the Syrian war, I was helping with the refugees, saw what that was about. And what I saw in Gaza was at another level altogether. This was a genocide. Every single day I saw, like mass casualties. And I'm talking not like 6 or 7 people. We're talking 20 people coming in at a time. And these are families that have been deliberately targeted. And the reason I say it's deliberate is you could call an accident when it happens once or twice. This happened every single day I was there. And having children and families come in maimed, dismembered, and these were our bombs that were falling. I'm paying for this. Yeah. I'm paying for this with my own tax dollars.
Yeah.
And I come home and people don't believe what's happened. And I witnessed it with my own eyes, and I took care of these children. And I felt guilty that I got to leave, and we had to leave Palestinians there. They can't get out. They have to live with this every single day, and I'm paying for their misery. And so I had to go to Washington and start talking about it. It was just as important as taking care of the children with my own hands there. It's just as important as operating is to tell, our lawmakers so that they have no excuse that they didn't know.
Yeah. And now similar atrocities are also taking place, have continued in Gaza and is now taking place in Lebanon. And our tax dollars are also contributing to similar instances of violence in Iran as well, all at the direction or directly in the hands of Israel. In the New York Times, you were quoted as saying children who lost limbs and could not run or play specifically said they wished they had died, and some wanted to kill themselves. In the same article, multiple other doctors were quoted as saying, I couldn't believe the number of kids I saw shot in the head. How do we make sure this never happens again? And how do you feel about the fact that this level of reporting had to happen? The New York Times reporting was independently conducted by doctors from different parts of Gaza that had not corresponded with one another, and yet there were still people that were questioning those reports and criticizing those reports.
Well, this is what we're doing right now. I mean, it's still happening. When we say it's never again, it's still happening right now. There are still children being killed in Gaza. They're being killed in Lebanon. On the first day of the war with Iran, the United States of America, not Israel, dropped a bomb on a school filled with girls. So what we have to do is actually speak up. We actually have to say stop. We have to stop funding it. We have to, this is not just like a foreign war. This is our money that we could be using in our communities. We could be using it to fix our healthcare system, our education. We could build roads. We could actually have like a high-speed rail system. This is our money that we're spending over there to just create misery and, commit atrocities that we're supposed to be preventing.
Yeah. Do you believe that there should be a full arms embargo in Israel?
Absolutely. 100%.
Okay. There are many in Congress that have now chosen to make this distinction between defensive weapons and offensive weapons, or rather have decided to lean into no distinction between the two, but seemingly are using this as an opportunity to say, look, we won't pay for Israel to purchase these weapons, but we'll still sell these weapons. Do you feel like that goes far enough in terms of restraining Israel?
It's not far enough. We first need to follow our own laws. We are not supposed to be selling weapons, any kind of weapons, to any country that is breaking international humanitarian law, that is committing genocide or atrocities. And when we talk about the Iron Dome or any kind of defensive weapons, what it's doing, it's insulating Israel from having to make decisions to make peace, and it really isolates them from having to deal with the consequences.
Yeah.
It's like giving a bully body armor to go bully people some more. We need to be able to have them feel the effects of war, and then they'll stop and they'll actually have a conversation.
Beyond that, do you support sanctioning the state of Israel?
Yes, like every other state. I mean, what makes it different than Russia or Iran in the case that we've talked about for years? If that's the case, what makes Israel so special that they don't have to abide by the rules that everyone else does?
So you've worked in other war and disaster settings. You briefly alluded to this, but I want to talk a little bit more about it. What was different about Gaza medically and morally from Iraq, Haiti, Turkey post-earthquake, or even back here treating 9/11 first responders?
What made Gaza different is, first, the number of children that I had to see. I saw more children in 3 weeks than I saw in 8 months in Iraq. Part of it is because the population is so dense. Children make up about 50% of the population.
Yeah.
And so when you drop a 2,000-pound bomb on a bunch of tents, it's not a surprise that most of the people that are going to be killed are going to be children coming in. And this was also a deliberate targeting of civilian population. In other wars, civilians I've seen get hurt. I've seen, quote, collateral damage. I hate that term, but it's a reality. But to have the civilians be like 80 or 90% people coming in my case, 100%, based on my observations, then this is not a war. This is ethnic cleansing. You're not fighting Hamas. You're not fighting anyone. You're really eliminating people and, causing fear and wanting them to flee, but they're trapped and they can't go anywhere. And then when they move to one part of Gaza, then you drop bombs on them over there. This is not a war. It's extermination, which is what's happening.
I went to Cuba recently, and I saw hospitals in a dire state of disrepair. I saw an energy grid that had collapsed due to our design on this country, a country that we've actually sanctioned, unlike Israel, which deserves the sanctions, a country that we had sanctioned because they had a successful revolution where they were able to develop autonomy, develop sovereignty and dignity for their people. And we didn't like that. It's a sanctions regime and a blockade that has continued for almost 60 years, and that's worsened over time, not allowing the island to engage in commerce, not allowing the island to engage in regular international trade. I talked to doctors who told me about not having access to medical equipment, or sometimes even getting to purchase medical equipment from Europe, from European companies that were not tied to the United States of America. And sometimes an American company would go and purchase these European companies. And once that purchase took place, they would no longer be able to purchase different parts, different components that were necessary for repairs. And that would cause them to basically throw out this medical equipment. How do you see these conditions connecting to what you saw in Gaza versus back here in the United States? And do you have a solution for that as well?
Well, when you do the sanctions, or in Gaza, when you're having this siege where you're not allowing any medication, where you're destroying their electricity grid, you're destroying sanitation and clean water, you're harming the regular people. You're harming civilians. They're the ones most vulnerable. military, just like in the United States or everywhere else in the world, they're going to have priority. They're still going to be able to function. But what we've done in Cuba, for example, it's been 60 years. Everyone who made any kind of decision or was involved in a revolution has long gone and passed. And what you've left is their children and grandchildren who are still living with the consequences of policies that we have in place and punishing people who had nothing to do with it at all. And that doesn't move us forward. We're just avoiding the conversation. And what's happening in Gaza is, again, you're punishing regular people. You're punishing 2.1 million people. About 10% of them have been killed already. And you're not really solving the problem is you're not addressing the issues that are hard to face, is why this is happening, why, these are human rights we're talking about: food, water, medicine. And we're supposed to be the preeminent fighter and protector of human rights.
Yeah.
And what we've become is really the villain in this whole story, where we're taking this away from people.
We'll move away from Israel-related questions because people always say I care too much about it, which is a ridiculous thing to say in general. It's the great crime of our generation. And I do think it's a good litmus test to see whether or not people who are running for office are responsive to the needs of their base of support. This has become a 90-10 issue in the Democratic Party. What distinguishes you from your opponents in the primary on this issue in particular?
On this issue of
on the issue of Israel. Before we move on, that's my last question.
I've been on the ground. I've experienced it, firsthand, the genocide that's happening. There's very few people have been in Gaza, journalists. No one from the outside world could come and speak firsthand. I'm not watching, videos. I'm not listening to hearsay. I'm telling you as an eyewitness. And I'm not afraid to speak up since day one. And day one did not start on October 7th, 2023. It was long before that this is an apartheid state, that we're violating human rights. And I haven't been afraid to say it when it was not popular. And I will continue not to be afraid when I go to Congress, because that's where we need to be talking about this. We need to be saying, why are we funding, a country that, really doesn't respect us? Like I said, I was there. They knew as a U.S. citizen, I had a passport. I was wearing the flag, and they still had an M16 pointed at my face, and they said they didn't care. So why do we care about them so much?
Okay, well, I lied. I have one more thing about Israel.
Yeah.
And your opponents. One of your opponents, Sue Altman, previously ran in a nearby district and had considerable support from AIPAC-linked group DMFI, Democratic Majority for Israel. She's now distanced herself from the organization and recently announced she's raised $400,000 in the first 2 months of campaigning. You're also up against East Brunswick Mayor Brad Cohen, who was also putting up six-figure fundraising totals in late 2025. There are nearly a dozen other candidates also vying for the seat. What differentiates you from your opponents, and what will it take to win this race?
So I'm coming in as an outsider. All my life, I've been working with my hands, serving people. I take care of people in New Jersey every single day. I take care of them in my practice, in the emergency rooms. I've volunteered all my life, to selflessly go and serve people who need it the most around the world. I have not been involved in politics because I thought that I was making a difference, taking care of one patient at a time. And what I've realized is that I'm putting a Band-Aid, and you can't treat all these patients when the ultimate source of their misery is really coming from Washington. We're told, we have patients that can't afford insurance. We have patients that can't, that can't afford their premiums. They're deciding between, paying their rent and their medical bills. And I see we're spending tons of money on bombs and stealth bombers and aircraft carriers. And, this is the same problem. What's happening in other countries is affecting us because this is how we're deciding to spend our resources. We should be spending it on healthcare and not bombs. We should have a universal health system like every developed country that's out there, where healthcare is a human right. And if you walk in and you're sick, you're going to get taken care of and not get thrown in the street. We should be spending in our education. And so as a doer and as a surgeon who normally goes in and cuts out disease and fixes it, I feel I have something to say and something to do. And like I've always done in my life where I've acted, I'm not going to be the same old politician. I think we need a change in Washington. Yeah. And I'm that change.
You spent 8 years as a surgeon in the National Guard and the United States Army. Many young physicians choose a similar military path to graduate from medical school without having the incredible burden of student loan debt. What's your vision for guaranteeing young people's access to the highest quality education in the world without having to go into crippling debt to receive such educations?
Yes, the military is a path forward for so many people in vulnerable communities that can't afford education, that don't have access to it. And I had the opportunity by joining the National Guard and eventually got a scholarship. But you shouldn't have to go to Iraq to be able to pay for Rutgers. And what we need is tuition-free public education. Again, just like healthcare, this is a basic that, we should be providing for, Americans to be educated, to be able to compete in the world. When we talk about national security and safety, education helps with that. We don't want to be the dumbest country in the world over time. So what we need to do is invest in our education and be spending there. And that starts with providing it for everyone so that they have the opportunities and we could thrive.
What's your fast sandwich order?
Turkey sandwich.
No, okay, never mind. You said Rutgers, so I'm asking you. You gotta have a fast sandwich order.
A fast sandwich. Well, listen, I'm back when Cluck You Chicken was around, so okay. That's a long time ago.
Yeah, I think it was still around while I went there. A considerable percentage of your district, 40 to 50%, work white collar jobs in offices. What's your plan to make sure they're able to continue putting food on the table as AI inevitably replaces some, if not all of those jobs, as some of these AI companies are claiming is going to happen?
Well, AI exploded over the last few years. Everyone thought it was science fiction just 5 years ago, and it's clearly going to make a difference. It's going to make things more efficient, but we need to completely understand its implications. And so we need to slow down. We need to stop, figure out how it's impacting education. What's it doing to our children's minds? What's it doing to the workforce? What's it doing to our climate? Our electricity bills are skyrocketing because of the data centers. We know that it's sucking up water and, so we need to understand the pros and the cons in order to move forward. So it is here to stay, but we need to approach this carefully. I support Bernie Sanders' moratorium so that we could figure out the right path forward.
Okay. This is a question that I ask every candidate that comes on the broadcast, is the Zoram method. What are your top 5 policies that you want to be defined by?
So, I talk about healthcare, not bombs. I talk about abolish ICE and to unrig the economy, but let's unpack that. So healthcare, not bombs means Medicare for all, and not bombs means we need to address our foreign policy and we need to look at the military industrial complex, take it apart and really see what we need. We are spending $1 trillion, on our defense / Department of War / Department of War crimes now. And what we need to do is spend that in healthcare and spend it in education. We need to abolish ICE. And so not only do we need to, abolish it, but we need to dismantle the DHS completely. So I want to go further because the DHS was formed over 20 years ago after 9/11. And it was formed to basically target Muslims and target Arab communities and has evolved so that it's really Black and brown communities around the country. It's not making us any safer. And why is it lumped in with organizations like FEMA and the TSA? So now when we're trying to block funding for ICE, we can't fly out of our airports. And God forbid a storm or an earthquake hit, we wouldn't be able to respond, or we don't have funding for FEMA. FEMA used to be its independent agency before 9/11. And so dismantling it, separating it apart and making it like really more efficient so that we have, we can able to respond appropriately is one of the things I want to do. And then we need to unrig the economy. So we need to be taxing our billionaires. We need to be able to make sure that working families, are able to make a living. And that means, passing the PRO Act, getting, better union paying jobs for our people, and making sure that this oligarchy that's been building up over the last few years, doesn't take control, and that we are actually, working for the constituents and not for profit.
It's great. You have two more.
I have two more. I
Yeah.
unpacked it. So
Well, you gave me three.
well, Medicare, foreign policy.
Uh-huh.
We got abolish ICE, dismantle the DHS. That's 4, and then we have
Okay.
so let's say
Fine, I'll let you
universal
have it.
daycare. Universal
Okay.
is part of affordability, and tuition-free public college.
Okay. Fair. All right. This is going to be a somewhat more contentious one that I doubt you've ever been asked before. You've talked about rolling back the dismantling of agencies, some of which I am obviously in support of in the federal government, one of which is the USAID, which I find to be a little bit more contentious. I think it does a lot of good, but also USAID functions in certain instances as a way to destabilize countries. Sometimes it's for soft power initiatives, which is largely good. Sometimes it's for undermining the domestic economy of the country that that we have some sort of foreign policy interest in. How do you plan on ensuring that the organization, USAID, will be rebuilt in a manner that does not push for regime change around the world like it has in the past in places like Afghanistan, Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua?
Well, I was actually in Gaza last year, and in February when USAID was stopped and dismantled, and I saw the impacts of it in 24 hours. We had field hospitals that were being funded that had to discharge patients and let the physicians that they were hiring go, and so it had a real impact on people's lives.
Yeah.
Now, whether we should be using it as a tool to destabilize countries really goes against the spirit of the organization altogether. We need to have oversight on why we're actually doing it. USAID should be to aid and to create friends and promote relations for the United States. It has done more for U.S. security than I think our Department of War has done over the last 70 years, because it's created friends. People look up to the United States and said, they're the ones bringing the food. I remember being in Sudan and seeing bags of, rice and flour that were labeled USAID. So that had an impact for security, for friendliness, and creating a stable order. So how do we ensure it? I mean, we just have to have oversight. And, in the end, I think we just have to overhaul how we look at foreign policy altogether, whether we're carrying a stick or we want to, carry a carrot. And I think the carrot is the way to go.
Okay. I like that. All right. Rapid fire. We're going to do a rapid round. All right. Do you support Medicare for all?
Yes.
Banning congressional stock trading?
Yes.
Abolishing and prosecuting ICE?
Absolutely.
Taxing billionaires?
Yes.
Canceling student loan debt?
Yes.
Canceling medical debt via the Medical Debt Cancellation Act?
I think that's very important. Yes.
Universal child care?
Yes.
Implementing the Green New Deal?
Yes.
Ending aid to Israel?
Yes.
Ending America's war on Iran?
Yes.
Ending America's blockade on Cuba?
Yes.
Okay.
That was easy.
Nothing crazy
I didn't have to
there.
think about any of these.
Yeah. All right. Well, last question I have for you is this. There's a lot of people who are tuning in for the first time and hearing what you have to say. What do you want them to understand about your convictions, and how can people contribute to your campaign?
My convictions have not changed. I treat people as human beings every single day. I don't look at their skin color, their race, their religion. When someone is sick, I want to help them. And I think that our country is really sick right now. And I want to go in, never been in politics before other than voting and, supporting my candidates. And so I don't answer it to anyone except people. I'm not taking any corporate PACs. I'm not getting any APAC money. I don't think they're going to, volunteer it, but I am raising it from individuals because that's who we should be answering to. And when I go to Congress, I'm going to be answering to the people because I believe that we answer to a higher power. And at one point of time, I'm going to be asked if I did the right thing. And I need to be able to answer that with a straight face. And so if you believe that and you want to support me, I think you should check me out on hamawyfornj.com. This is not the hardest thing I've ever done. I think, I was at an awards dinner yesterday. There was a medical conference, and I got recognized for going to Gaza. And afterwards, I had a lot of people come and speak to me and say, "Thank you very much. You were very brave." And they weren't talking about brave for going to Gaza. Is that because I was speaking up? And, that kind of took me back, is like, speaking up is the easy part. Everyone could do that. All you need to do is just stand up and have a voice. And we could do that together. I'm going to do that in Congress. It's not like bombs falling around me. And, you could count on me for that.
What are some? This is great. This is a great final statement. But if we're talking about this sincerely, what are some of the biggest hurdles you need to climb in order to win this race?
It's telling people who I am. Everyone's used to the same old politics and politicians. I'm not that. I need people to know that I'm sincere. What I've done in the past, and understanding my convictions, that I'm not answering to party lines. I'm not answering to, any interests other than I really want to make this world better. And I believe in this country, and I want to make this country better.
What do you need? Like door knockers, phone bankers? What are some areas of need for your campaign right now?
So we have a good grassroots campaigns, but we need more people to knock on doors. If you're in New Jersey or close by, we have canvassing like every weekend, and now doing some weeknights. Phone bankers all over the country, and donations. So, $5, $10 or more if you could donate. Again, go to hamawyfornj.com. This is how we get our message out.
We have a donation link in the chat that people have been spamming and a volunteer link as well. So if you guys want to get active, if you don't need to be in Dr. Hamawy's district to participate. You can volunteer for the campaign and phone bank from anywhere, and you can donate from anywhere, unless you're outside of the United States of America, in which case you can't donate. That's not legal. But yeah. Well, Dr. Hamawy, thank you so much for coming on. This was a wonderful conversation.
Thank you very much
for all of the work that you've done all around the world, and hopefully we'll see you in Congress.
I hope so too. June 2nd, if you're in the district, please vote. And I'll talk to you after that, hopefully, and we'll talk about the next steps.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Dr. Adam Hamawy, everybody.